Let's go.
Let's do it. Hey, everybody.
What's up?
Sam has been growing out his hair, dyed it a nice golden.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Photography and Friends Live. It's August 2022, and we are so excited to be here. Oh, that is me. I'm hearing myself.
Sorry. I'm hearing ourselves.
Echo. Yeah, we are excited to have you all here. So, Sam, Will.
August 2022.
That's not me.
I think we figured it out.
All right. Is anyone else hearing an echo? No. Okay.
That was a
all
lot.
right.
Sorry.
Cool. Well, welcome live, everybody. Today we're going to be answering your questions. We are going to be helping you out with photography. If you're here live, let us know where you're listening in from. Let us know if this is your first time watching a live stream, and where are you? Yeah, where are you tuning in from? Sam and Will, what's up? How you guys been doing?
What's up? Good. We have been busy, the two of us.
Yeah, what's up? Where have you guys been?
Yeah, I don't know, Sam. You want to start? I've been all over the place.
Well, you start, Will. You've had a longer month than I have.
I just posted a YouTube video about it. You can check it out on my channel. Click on my name.
Yeah.
We just went. I'm staying in Nashville right now, so we went from Nashville to Florida for a job with Stanford, then to LA where I had a job for a hospital in Victorville, California, and then went on a family vacation. And then Sam and I went back to this ranch up in the Eastern Sierras to do a bunch of social media content, and then went back to LA for like a night. And then Sam and I went to Guatemala where we did a bunch of photography and video stuff that Sam can explain because he's got the hat on.
Got the hat. Yep. Got that swag. Yeah, so similar thing, went out to that ranch with Will, and then we went down to Guatemala to work with Horizontes Sin Límites, which is Limitless Horizons Ashil. They're an incredible nonprofit that have been working in this remote community of Chahul, Guatemala, working with the indigenous community out there. And they've started with scholarships, and then they built a library, and then they built a computer lab, and they've been doing, helping kids get through school. And back in 2019, we went down there to make a video about fundraising for a new school project, and we just got to go down there and see the new school, which I actually built, and is super cool.
It's really, really cool.
For that, did lots of photos, lots of video, have so much to go through now.
That's like super cool to like see, because you see all these projects all the time, maybe the promo videos, or we've worked on these kinds of things where you make a promo video, but to actually see the project come to fruition and be able to see like in a relatively short amount of time too, it seems like.
Yeah. I mean, it's so cool. Like we made that video 3 years ago, just before COVID, basically. And they took that video and raised the money to build the school. It was like a big part of them raising the money, which is like so cool to see, like the power of like what we're doing and stuff. So
yeah.
Well, and we had actually people down there come to us and say, it was your video that we saw, that like the words can go so far, but seeing the visuals and really getting a sense of this place, that's what sold me. And so they had board members, they had donors down there. And yeah, to really see the impact. You're right, Phil. Like it's not something we always get to have doing, helping these places do this type of stuff.
Yeah.
Typically we do it and then we're kind of done. But we got to actually get to see how it came into full fruition. So it's really great.
Very cool. Well, welcome everyone. Kathy, what's up? Thanks for being here. Luciana, Greg, not first time. Luciana from Brazil, Zayas from Phoenix, Lency from Malaysia, Matt from Philly, Benjamin from Hungary. Again, a global audience. So thank you so much for being here with us live. And if you're watching the replay, thank you too. Leave a comment down below where you're tuning in from for the replay too. So we're just going to be answering questions mostly. So for the people here live, start hitting us up with questions. Post your questions. We're going to bounce around between that, maybe some photo critiques. While you are thinking about your questions, just a couple updates. So for people who are members of the Facebook group, we are running our night photography contest right now, and you have another week or so to submit photos for that. That contest will be pinned in the featured photos at the top of the Facebook group. So if you haven't done so, please post your photos. We'll be picking the winners at the end of the month. If you have submitted a photo to the night contest, let us know in the comments if you have. Welcome, Rachel. Rachel is one of our Plus members, and we're going to do a little conversation about something she's interested in just a second. Shauna from, is that, oh God, I'm so, Missouri? M.O.? Joplin?
Missouri.
Yeah.
Joplin. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I should be more confident. Yeah, so if you have questions, let us know. Sam is asking, see question marks in his comment. Favorite lenses.
Favorite lenses, photography, questions, tech, anything.
But let's I guess since Rachel's here and we don't have any other questions, let me actually just bring up the post in Photography and Friends Plus. Because I can do this.
Sweet
I can do it. But if you have questions, everyone else, we're here for you.
Can we explain what Photography and Friends Plus is real quick for people who are tuning in?
Yeah, so if people are tuning in for the first time or haven't heard of Plus, this is like the private community where it's just for people who want to take their photography to the next level and needed a little bit of extra help. So here you can see that it's like its own dedicated website. We have spaces where you can ask questions, post photos for critique, which we'll see in just a second. We do weekly live sessions. And so
yeah, we do.
You probably saw me share in the group or an email that I did a landscape photography workshop for the Plus community. And this is one that we're not always going to do this, but I decided to make it free. So you can check that out sort of as a preview. And that's also posted in the group. But here you can see all of our upcoming live sessions. You can see all of our past sessions as well. We do interviews with professional photographers, contests here monthly in the community as well. But yeah, and if you have questions about Plus, feel free to let us know. But more importantly, I just wanted to bring up this post. So Rachel is sort of in the middle, similar to a lot of us. Like, we go through this trying to figure out what mirrorless camera to upgrade to. And her budget is around $2,000. And Rachel, since you're here, and I forget if you commented this, but is that $2,000 budget for the body and the lens?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I hope to keep around 2K with like something with a good all-around lens.
Okay, so there's a lot of great discussion happening over on the Plus community, but we thought it would be fun to kind of dive a little bit deeper here as well. If you're watching live, let us know what camera you are using, and if you have any opinions about great mirrorless cameras for beginners or for that sort of budget, let us know in the comments, because we want to see what other people think too. She was interested in the Fuji X-T30 and the Fuji X-T4. A couple people posted about the Nikon Z series as an option.
Sam can weigh in on that.
But any thoughts? And Rachel, any follow-up questions that you have for us specifically?
Yeah, let's see. Ideally, both. I can go over if it's worth it. No. So yeah, I mean, let's see if she responds. But I think she wanted a lens and a camera. I mean, at this point, it's like at this point, I feel like if you're jumping into a new system, it's also like what you feel like you like tactilely with your hands, and what colors you feel like you're leaning towards, and the style of shooting that you're doing. I would rather spend more money now and get a lens that I'm not happy with and have to buy another later.
So maybe she doesn't want to start with necessarily a kit lens that costs $400 when you could spend $800 or $1,000 maybe for a nicer lens and a body. The Fuji X-T30 that you mentioned, you could probably get that camera plus the 24 to 70 equivalent for the Fuji X series, the 16 to 55, I think it is. That's the really good quality zoom lens, and so that would be a pretty good all-around lens. I also mentioned that I think Fujifilm has the newer 16 to 80 millimeter lens that gives you a little bit of extra range. So, but that only opens up to an f4. So if you guys were deciding between the f4 16 to 80 or an f2.8 16 to 55,
it depends on what you're doing. Like for me, I use that 16 to 55 2.8 lens for weddings all the time and for portraits. Like that all is an all-around lens on any system, but Fuji in particular, it's inexpensive enough that it's like great. And I was using it on the XT3, and so you could probably get an XT3 and that lens for around 2K, maybe a little bit more, maybe 2,500.
I would be curious to know. That's awesome that you're going to rent the setup, Rachel. I think that's a really great best place to start. And I would definitely go with the 16 to 35 2.8 to rent it to see if it's worth the money for you.
Yeah.
That being said, as well, what kind of photography has? What kind of photography?
It was more like just travel, and it's not. She's not really interested in doing like professional, like getting gigs and stuff like that. Tom posted they have the 70, or sorry, the Nikon Z6 and the Z50. Tom, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments about that because I've never shot with that one.
The Nikon Z5 is, I think, more within the price range. The Z6 is a little bit more expensive, or the Z6 Mark II. The Z5 looks like a really great camera, as does the Canon R. I think they're both, or the R7.
Didn't the R7 just come out for Canon?
The R7 just came out, but it is 1900 with a 18 to 150 like very kit lens. So I'd probably say to get that with like, the Sigma 24 to 70 or, 24 to 105. But all those are much larger than the Fuji because they're full frame, Well, actually the R7's
not, yeah.
It's crop sensor. I just feel like the Canon and the Nikon mirrorless systems have really come a very long way. But at the same time, like, if you're going crop sensor, I think Fuji is still the best option. Like, I think they have great glass. Yeah,
and if you're at like a beginner level, I feel like Fuji is just such a good camera to learn on. All the tactile functions and like being able to actually physically move a lot of the numbers and stuff when you're learning is like really helpful if that's a thing that you want.
Yeah.
A brand we often have not mentioned as much lately is Sony. I mean, they have for her budget the A6600, I think.
Oh yeah, also really great camera.
I don't think they've come up with the A6700. Correct me if I'm wrong, people, but so that's like their crop sensor camera. I guess one argument though for going Sony, and if you're watching and use Sony, let us know, is you could get that camera with the lenses and still use those lenses on like if you ever upgraded to a full frame camera, right?
Right.
If you got the full frame lenses.
You got the full frame lenses, yeah. You would have to like sort of sacrifice, the crop to the full frame.
But like with Fuji, they don't have a full frame camera body, right. So I'm never going to be able to upgrade to a full frame camera with all my lenses.
Once you start buying the lenses, they're the lenses. And I think that's what's so great about that 16 to 55 2.8 is if at one point she does want to update to a bigger, better camera, that lens is still going to be amazing. And that's the thing with like bodies and lenses. And we've said this before, like you put money into glass, the technology in glass is moving much slower than the technology in the bodies of the cameras. So if you invest money in glass, in good glass, and you stick with a system, that lens is going to last you for years. Like I'm still using lenses that I've had on other systems for a long time, but the bodies are going to need to get upgraded probably before that. If you're getting into like more professional work or printing stuff or whatever, I think the Fujis will last you a long time. Like I still have friends shooting on the XT10 and XT2s with the same lenses that they bought 5 years ago. So, it just depends on what you're doing.
Yeah. I also think, in just purely aesthetics, like the Fuji is a beautiful looking camera. It's very like, it looks like an old film camera. I think there's a lot of like,
important to look cool.
Yeah, there's like pleasure in that in a way. That being said, like, yeah, so if you like that, I remember at some point someone was like, oh, like Canon's like the MacBook Pro. It's easy to use. It's like intuitive. It's, sort of techy and cool looking, or more tech focused. And some people really like that. And some people want the more like PC, which is like the Sony, which has like super detailed menus and like just a lot more information going into all that. And it's just like a bit, I don't know, less of that. And then like the Fuji's, I don't know, it's like the cool old analog thing. It just like has a whole different feel to it. That does play into, sort of your experience as a photographer. But really all these cameras within that price range, whether it's the Z5 from Nikon, whether it's a Canon R7 or the Canon R, EOS R, the Fuji X-T4, these are all great cameras to start off with. I mean, there's also, you could go down a level, even get the 3 or something. But I think to some degree, like you're doing, is renting it, testing these cameras out.
Renting is good.
Feels, yeah.
I mean, and Rachel, you don't have any interest in doing video, do you? Because that's one thing to think about. Because with the Fuji too, if you're considering the X-T4, the X-T3 is the same sensor, basically the same camera, but the video capabilities aren't as good. It doesn't have the flip out screen, which is nice for video. But in terms of like the quality of the photo, same with the X-T30 even. I think the sensor's the same. But if you are interested in video, I would go X-T4 or even jump if you could push it to their latest XH2. It's a different body, but if you're like investing in something that's the best for right now, then the XH2 just came out, and it's a pretty good price for that camera.
Yeah, and the XT3 you could find for $1,000 and then spend another $1,000 on the 16 to 55 2.8, or get the kit lens, or get like a pancake 35 lens. And the XT3 is still a phenomenal camera, and like Phil said, it does have the same sensor that the XT4 does.
Yeah, I want to post this comment. Kathy asks, do you think crop sensor camera is dead? This is such a good question. I mean, well, one, absolutely not, because there's camera manufacturers. Like I said, Fujifilm doesn't even make a full sensor camera. They make they make
a medium format,
which is even bigger. But for me, like when you're comparing the crop sensor versus full frame, well, one, you can take great photos with both cameras. Two, the quality of the sensors of crop cameras are so good now. I mean, compared to what they were, compared to a full frame sensor 10 years ago, a new crop sensor is going to get a sharper image, better low light. And the other thing just to throw out there too is like with the AI sort of capabilities of like Photoshop now, where you can up-res photos after the fact, you can shoot with a crop sensor camera, save all that space with the memory cards and stuff. But then if you do want to up-res the photo in post, you could do that. I mean, of course, there's going to be an argument on the flip side of how like the full frame cameras are better, but I don't think crop sensor cameras are dead at all.
I don't think they're dead, especially for people who are getting into photography, who are traveling with photography, and who are just hobbyists in general. I think there is a world for professionals to be using crop sensors, but I think in general, that's the only time where I'd say like, and this is just coming from experience, I tried to make a crop sensor camera work for years and got to a point where I shot a wedding and it just couldn't keep up with the full frame other shooter as far as light goes. Like if you're doing an event or you're doing something professional, full frames are going to just be, I think, better. But that doesn't mean the crops aren't dead. Like you can still use them for these things. It just depends on how you're shooting things.
Well, I
Or
mean,
certain-
also for like, I mean, it depends on what you're doing. If you're doing wildlife or sports, crop might even be better. Or for certain video capabilities, they can push crop sensor cameras even further and have better specs than full frame.
I will say though, you can in pretty much every full frame camera out there now shoot in crop sensor mode and get.
That's true. It's like the same. Yeah.
It's the same thing. Like I'm crop sensors still have their place and they're still great, but
Yeah.
there's a certain degree where I think some people, when they want to advance with photography, get to a point where that
You'll
crop
want the-
sensor is not going to be enough. You're going to want
Yeah.
the full frame because of the look, the feel, the better low light capabilities, X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
But I also, just to throw it out there, because I've been on a deep Nikon
Yeah, you have.
tunnel
He's
Uh-oh.
switching again. Phil.
Uh-oh.
There's
he's
a
teetering.
Nikon Z6 Mark II with a 2470 f4, and it is a bit over the 2000. It's closer to 2500, but that is a phenomenal camera if you wanted to go the Nikon route. Maybe after you rent your X-T4, trying the Nikon Z6 Mark II. It's an amazing camera from everything I've seen. I played with the Z7. I really like the feel of it. I really like they have a little screen on the top, and just it's a really great camera as well.
The Sienna asks, maybe you have an opinion on this mirrorless full frame cameras, Sam. Canon or Sony? Which would you recommend for going professional?
Either. If
Yeah.
you already own Canon stuff, go Canon. If you already own Sony stuff, go Sony. But they are both leading the way alongside Nikon in terms of amazing autofocus performance, amazing high ISO performance. If you want high megapixel, they have those options. If you don't want high megapixel, they have those options. I think the biggest thing I'm seeing is just like today, Canon has a hybrid camera that is slightly more advanced than Sony. Tomorrow, Sony will have one that's slightly more advanced. And it's like
So true.
hairs difference. So
Yeah. Well,
they're both great. And I do think there's
I'd say-
a place. I've been renting cameras like crazy lately because I don't own a camera or a working camera right now. And
What happened
it's
to
cool
your
to see
camera?
how
he owns lots of cameras.
all my photo cameras are gone.
He owns
Well,
lots of
except-
cameras, and he has my video camera right now.
I do.
We can continue to chat about this, but if anyone has more questions about other things, just post it in the chat. Rachel had a good question though about getting used cameras. If there's a safe place to get used cameras, KEH.com. That's your recommendation.
KH we used a lot. Adorama actually has some pretty good used stuff too. Those two companies I would trust a lot.
DNHphotovideo.com, they have used ones as well.
KEH,
But KEH, I've sold through and bought through, and they have a rating system that I find it's always been accurate for me. I've bought things that even were there's the like new minus, like new plus, excellent, da da da, and I bought one that was like fair or like medium, like just not. There's going to be some issues with it. It's great. There was a mark on the lens on the body, but the glass was fine.
I think I've gotten lenses from KH too.
Yeah.
And just to follow up, so Rachel, you were thinking maybe the XT3. Like I said, yes, that's an option. I mean, the XT30, I would have to look at the specs to know the exact differences, but the XT32, which you originally had posted about, I also think has the same sensor as the XT4, and that one is newer than the XT3, so that might have some better specs. I'm not sure. I'd have to look at it.
I think the body's smaller and it doesn't have as fast as a mechanical shutter or electronic shutter. Maybe?
Yeah.
It has IBIS. Isn't that the big difference between the 4 and the 3?
Oh, the 4 does, yeah. But we're talking about the 30 and the 3.
Oh, the 30 and 3. It's the body construction.
Oh, does Jamie have the?
One's weather sealed and one's not.
So all these little things.
What does Jamie have?
She's got the XT4.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Excuse me.
Yeah. That's the camera that I've been borrowing from her a lot.
And what lenses does she have?
She has the 23 what's the 35? Yeah, 28, 23, 1.4?
23.
They have both, yeah. So
Or it's like the 35 equivalent because it's crop sensor. So
yeah, 23 probably.
23 is 35. Yeah, awesome lens. Although she just used that as a vent, and she's really frustrated she didn't have a zoom
Yeah.
because she was stuck in the back of the room, and she has a bunch of wide shots of this event.
Yeah.
But it forced her because at a certain point she just slowly crept her way towards the front so that she could get nice photos, and she did. She's like,
Move
"Oh, I
your
just have
body.
to walk
That's
forward."
what's so great. Change the position. You don't need to zoom. Get creative.
Exactly.
It forces
Yep.
you to.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what else? What other questions do you all you photographers have? Let us know in the comments. While people are thinking, unless there was another one.
There's one from JD.
Oh yes.
By
Okay, here, yeah, I see that one. That is, I use 10 to 18 on crop sensor. The size, blah, 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 reduced by 1.6. I'm planning to get the 16 millimeter RF. Should I go for it? I do interior and birthday shots mainly.
My assumption is that the 16 millimeter is going to be a faster in terms of f-stop.
Yeah, what's that?
In the zoom, I'm guessing the 10 to 18 would be a maybe 2.8, but probably like a
so 16 is 2.8, and the 10 to 18 is 4.5. Yeah, 4.5 to 4.56.
Yeah, if you're doing interior stuff, I would absolutely get the 16. If you like that focal length, on your 10 to 18, you like that 16 focal length, I would definitely do that. I guess there is something to be said of getting a second lens that is a different focal length than the one you already have. Having that extra stop and a half of light is going to be huge for you, though. So I think it'd be a good choice. But if there's like
I mean, also the 16 though, like if you're doing interior stuff, that's not gonna be as wide as you want. Sometimes I would think. So I'm wondering what's like their Canon's wide but better quality lens, like a 10 to. I don't know. I'd have to look it up.
Yeah, 1018's already cropped. 16 RF. Oh, I see.
Anyways, I that's something to consider too. I'd
go for it. I'd go for the 16. I think that's like a good thing to have in your arsenal with other lenses as well. See how it works. But again, same thing, right? Like go rent it, try it out in like a friend's house or something and see if it works out before you like pull the trigger. I think there's another question from Greg on Tamron. Did you find that one, Phil?
I didn't find it.
I can read it. I used a Tamron 18 to 400 millimeter on a friend's camera and want to know your thoughts for my Nikon D5600. I do a mixture of flower, landscape, and nature photography. D5600 is a solid camera.
What camera do you have, Greg? Do you have it? Or do you not have a camera?
I think it's for his. I want to know thoughts for my Nikon D5600. He was borrowing 18 to 400.
Got it.
Yeah.
I mean, 18 to 400 is a really fun. That was, or I had the 18 to 300 as my first lens. It's a really great. I traveled with that, and it's such a versatile focal length. There is something to be said though of like, typically when lenses zoom that much, there's a loss in quality, and so potentially having something that's, just I don't know, less of a zoom range, I guess. But that lens is super highly rated. It looks like people really, really like it. 35 millimeter equivalent is a 28 to a 640.
I think it's great for nature stuff. Like I think that distance is good for your 5600 for nature stuff. If you're doing like animals, especially wildlife, if you're doing flowers and you're doing landscapes, I don't know as if it's. I mean, it's cool to have that range and you can just carry around one lens. But I feel like you could get away with a higher quality. Like, what's that Nikon one? It's like a 105, or even Tamron makes one too. It's like a 105 macro.
There's the Sigma 24 to 105 f4. I feel like that'd be a good range for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, getting a trip to New Mexico and Grand Canyon. So yeah, something wide-ish would be nice, but also being able to zoom in. I mean, yeah, I guess the Grand Canyon would be nice to have like a 400 if you're trying to like reach something far away. And traveling with one lens is nice. Yeah, I mean, I think any of those. The D5600 is like a really solid Nikon camera, and I think would work out great. I think if you enjoy shooting with it and it covers all your range, it's worth it. I don't know as if I would use that to shoot close-ups of flowers, though. It seems a little aggressive.
I mean, if you really want nice like flower nature stuff, I would look for some kind of macro lens rather. I mean, you can get similar, framing composition with one of those big zoom lenses, but being able to use like a 80 millimeter macro and get like super close up is going to be a different type of photo. But that's a lens that can do a lot. So if you liked using it with your friends' camera, go for it. I wanted to follow up really quickly about that Canon question because I'm looking at their roadmap. I don't know if I'm not going to try sharing my screen right now, but I mean, budget is obviously a concern. Like, I think what they were asking about was the 16 millimeter 2.8. It's like a pancake or a little prime lens. It's $300. So like, I'm like here thinking, oh, well, maybe there's like a nice zoom, but like their newer 15 to 35s, $2,300. Or if you want like their 8 to 15, it's $1,200. Their 14 to 35 is $1,600. So, the best option might be like to get that range you were looking for. They have like an 11 to 24 f4, but that's $3,000. I could, buy a lot of things for that. So I think that 16 millimeter 2.8 might be a good one to play around with. That's my final.
That's your final
word.
We got more questions.
Yeah, more questions though. There was one about what do you see?
It's a video question from A Day in the Field.
What is it?
How would that large of a zoom
Hey, what's up?
versatility translate into video? Still heavy loss of clarity. It'd still be the same thing. I think when you're talking about video and you start getting the long lens and you're trying to shoot like, say, like Alaskan mountains from a boat, it's going to start to get shaky pretty quick on video.
And quality, I mean, we noticed when we were doing our advanced videography course on my Fuji X-T4 on my, what is that, 100 to 400 lens, you were like on the very end, and there was something really weird with the focus where like it was
I couldn't.
Yeah, well, you couldn't focus, and even if it was sharp focus, it wasn't, or even if it was focused on us, it wasn't very sharp. It was only sharp when you were backed out to like 300 or something. So that's, I don't know, that probably doesn't happen on all big zoom lenses, but that happened with mine.
It's
so
easier in photography because you can be that zoomed out and all you need is like a 5,000th of a second of it being in focus. As soon as you start to get into video, obviously you're shooting 24 frames per second. You need to like consistently have it be in focus.
Yeah.
That would be the only downfall of that, I think.
I think optically, once you get over 200 millimeters, anything that isn't like a extremely expensive like those super telephotos, you lose a lot of quality once you get over a certain amount. Like even the Sigma 150 to 600 I used, and it's a great lens, but at a certain point, it just, that crispiness you get from like a prime lens or a 24 to 70, it's just never quite as crispy. I feel like
you're better off in video. You're better off shooting that kind of lens that Sam's talking about, and then shooting at like 4K or 6K. So
and using a proper tripod with a big video, fluid head, and not hand holding it.
Welcome everyone who's tuning in with us live since the beginning. Little stretch break. Stretch that finger button and click that like button, and use all your fingers to let us know where you're tuning in from if you haven't done so yet. We love hearing where our students are. And we got another question, though, from Benjamin. I hesitate to buy a new lens for my cropped Canon 1200D, the Rebel T5, or buying a new camera. In the new camera, I'm looking at the M50 Mark II or the A6400. The M50, is Canon even continuing the M50 line?
Is their crop sensor mirrorless setup.
Okay.
So the R's are their full frame and right. No, there are crop R's.
There's cropped R's. Yeah. I think the M50 is more of like an entry.
Okay. So it's basically the A6400 series for Canon. Yeah.
And they're a little cheaper. Mm-hmm. I mean, it just depends on what you're doing, you know?
Yeah, like if you like your Canon menus and colors and stuff like that.
Although, you know, I've heard a lot of good things about the A6400 and have messed around with, which one is it? I forgot.
but the M series lenses won't work on the R series cameras, right? So that's something to consider, I would say.
And even the Canon lenses that you own with the T5, Rebel T5 or 1200D, those won't work. I mean, they'll work with an adapter, but it's starting over. So.
I would say definitely if you're at this point where you're feeling like your camera's holding you back, hold off on buying a new lens unless for some reason you were going to I don't think you would go for the like Canon 5D or something like their DSLR and get like a nice old lens, because at this point I think if you're investing in a new set of lenses or new camera system, I would go with mirrorless.
Yeah. The T5's just old enough. I mean, it's still a good camera, but if you're feeling held back by it, I think you'll be really, really, it'll be really exciting to get a newer technology camera.
Yeah.
Whether that's the 400 or the M50.
And we said this in those classes, like exactly what Sam just said is like, you don't need to be upgrading stuff until you feel like you're being held back by your technology creatively. Mm-hmm. As soon as you start feeling that way, then maybe it's time to think about spending money, like creatively or on the job. Those are the two big reasons to be upgrading. And if you don't feel that way, there's not necessarily a need to be spending all this money, because, you know, we could spend money on everything.
Yeah.
Or be using camera systems all the time.
Yeah. Well, welcome, Jose from Mexico City, David from Florida. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for those likes. Let us know if there's any more questions. While we wait for a couple questions, we're going to do a couple photo critiques really quick. Unless Sam or Will, was there anything else?
There's one that I think only Will would be able to answer from David Allen.
I didn't even see this.
I would like to try making studio portraits on medium format Yashicas, which is awesome.
Yashica. I used to have a Yashica.
So with an old PC flash sync socket,
Ooh.
How can I connect this to my external speed lights?
Ooh. Yeah, so I think it depends on what speed light you have, and I can't remember exactly, but my old Yashica was a twin lens with 120 film. And you have to get a physical trigger that is not wireless. You need to have a trigger, I think that, I'm not sure that exact model of Yashica, but from what I recall, you'd have to physically connect the Yashica to your speed light, and your speed light has to be a version with the same port on it that will fire it. There are remotes that also have that you could connect to your speed lights at that point. And then you could crappy rig it to your Yashica and be able to like fire them that way. But I think there might be a delay. So yeah, that might require some further research, but for sure you can do it if it's got the pin connector on the Yashica. I just don't know if it does.
That goes way over my head.
Well, that'd be the PC flash sync socket, right? Is that the little
it's
pin?
Just the socket. As long as your speed light also has the socket, there's no reason why you can't just get a cable and connect them. The only thing that you have to like consider, and you probably have to test, which sucks because it's film, but the sync speed would probably be at 1/25th of a second or 2/50th of a second. And that's something you have to test depending on the Yashica with a light meter. So you should test that. In addition, that would help. Sorry, I get nerd out about this stuff, but like a Sekonic incident light meter will also have that flash sync cable, the PC cable, and you would basically like take that light meter and put the settings in and fire it with your speed lights, get the settings, plug the settings back into your Yashica, take the cable, put the cable back into the Yashica. So yeah, testing would be required for such a thing for sure.
Or get constant lights, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you already have lights, and I get everything you're saying. Well, is the correct way, but also if you want to shoot film portraits in a studio, getting I think a lot of people.
Boring. I'm just kidding. I don't. Sometimes like it's just cheaper. Like the amount of light you need. Like say they're shooting on like 100 ISO, 120 millimeter film out of your Yashica twin lens camera. Wow, that was a sentence. And you need that power. Constant light is going to be expensive, right? Like you can get an aperture 5600 or whatever, and it's going to cost $1 million. Or you can get a speed light or a Godex for a couple hundred.
Fair enough.
Sorry. I did see another question. That was a really fun question. Yeah, that was the other one.
This is a question that popped up a little ago. Jose asked, for the D5500, what's your recommended all-around use? The 17 to 50 2.8 or the 35 1.8?
All-around use? Probably the 17 to 50.
I asked if there's something specific, like certain kind of photography, and Jose said a little of all. So
a little of all. Yeah. I mean, the 35 would be like, I think obviously like our hero lens, like the 35 1.8 is going to be amazing. Great walk around lens, great like portrait lens. But as soon as you want to get like a landscape photo or like a wide, you're toast.
And you walk backwards. Just walk backwards.
Yeah, but sometimes you can't. Sometimes you're on a cliff or, there's a tree.
Creative with composition. No, I love that Nikon 1.8. I had that 35 1.8 for a long time, and I miss that lens. I miss Nikon.
All right, here is another question, and then we're gonna jump to a couple of photo critiques after this one. Want to upgrade to a mirrorless full frame to shoot wildlife? Nikon versus Nikon versus Sony, I guess is what the question is.
Ooh.
Yes. Both are fantastic. If you're buying either their flagships or lower tiers, I think they're going to offer very similar in terms of autofocus, in terms of the lens options. You can buy Sigma, like for wildlife specifically, you're going to want that like 150 to 600 millimeter zoom lens. Nikon just came out with a brand new 400 millimeter f4.5 that's more compact than most super telephoto lenses. It really depends on how much money you want to be spending there, but both Sony and Nikon are phenomenal for that kind of thing. Some would say that Sony's non-flagship cameras have slightly better autofocus, but Nikon's autofocus system is phenomenal as well, even in their lower ones. So there's not really a clear answer there, I don't think. I don't know.
I think it's the same thing. It gets back to like the colors that you prefer, the log that you prefer, the handling of the camera, all these.
There's nothing though, like focus wise, one is better than the other at this point.
Not from photo.
Have animal eye focus tracking.
Yeah.
So they can both track animals' faces.
Yeah.
And lock focus in milliseconds. But the quality of lens is going to make a difference. I guess Sony technically has maybe a couple more super telephoto options, but I think starting off, if you really want to do wildlife specifically, the Sigma 150 to 600 is a great starting point and a more affordable option for super telephoto. We just actually went to the ranch and used my friend's Sony 200 to 600 millimeter lens, which
You still have it?
is no, but I was going like
I'm working on a YouTube
this is
video
the
about
whole
Sam.
pile that's about the size of my head is about 4 of these.
It's huge. It's massive. It's so
Massive.
big. And we
Um,
like went out to find these wild Mustangs with it. I'm gonna make a YouTube video about it. Stay tuned.
All right, I'm gonna hop over to these critiques really quick, but then David posted an awesome question that we'll get to afterwards. But let me just get the screen up. Okay, so and let me see if I can get us. Oh, I'm not there.
No signal. That's because you're broadcasting the
Yeah.
screen.
David, are you doing your street photography with the Yashica? I just want to.
I like this David guy.
All right,
I-
so
I-
yeah, I know. All right, we got 3 posts from our Plus members. We'll just do a quick photo critique session. This is a good example of what you'll kind of get on a day-to-day basis if you're in Plus. One of our photographers, Christina, posted this photo. I don't know if it's going to be kind of hard for you guys to see it, but on my end, I looked at this earlier. My critique of this photo is, for this kind of photo, I would have wanted this player to be in focus, and I think it's a little overexposed. Obviously, it would be hard to like not have this guy standing right here, but I wish this person wasn't standing here. But in terms of just like a general photo of like these players on the bench, it's composed well. I just wish this was in focus and it wasn't as bright so we can see more of the details on their faces. You guys have any thoughts?
The only thing that bothers me big time is the area. Well, now I can't see as well, but the area on the left where the player's like leg is behind that net. I think if you were to take like a small step to your left in this photo and get the background a little bit cleaner, that'd be nice. I do like the crop. It's an interesting crop, especially with the lines. Like you can see all the lines from their lacrosse things are like, corner to corner. And that's really nice. And I think it's like, I don't know. I would add like a tiny bit of contrast, and it feels like maybe half a stop overexposed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's a cool frame. And I love that I actually like that we don't see their faces.
Yeah. And this is, I think, a really, really great thing to talk about composition with. Like, you have your subjects clearly looking in a direction, and because that direction is to the legs of this player, it's like it kind of that for me like sort of kills the composition, just because their eye line is to just like the legs and torso of this person you can't even see. And so if you were to remove that person, their eye line just becomes into the ether, into anywhere, and I think that would like make it much more dynamic. But all the lacrosse handles and sticks going in different directions, like it's really nice composition in that sense. It's just that one person being there kind of kills it for me.
Yeah. All right. Well, Christina, hopefully that helps. Very is one of our photographer plus members from the very beginning, and she has really gotten good with her street photography even over the past few months since she joined Plus. She posted a series of photos. She's in Italy right now, where her family is. She lives in Europe, and so she is off traveling and got this series of photos. I'll just go through them one at a time, but if you guys have thoughts about them, this photo is really cool. Gosh,
this is such a classic Very photo, and like you see, like she's always got the sun in the background with like a silhouette in the front with a bunch of other detail going on, and it's like her eyes. The only thing I would do differently in this one is because there's so much symmetry going on, I would have tried to put the sun in like the center. Like maybe like actually try to like center it because of all the other things that feel good.
Yeah.
Of course, maybe that would kill the reflection. But I mean, I think just walking in a different direction. But
yeah, not even just cropping it though, center. I think if she stepped to the right so that the sun was directly over that first little pile right here and just centered, would it be cool, like you're saying? Yeah, but
I think I would have gotten rid of that front pile.
Yeah,
I think
maybe crop it.
Yeah, I feel like just zoomed in slightly or cropped it to just lose that front pile. She's had a few of these where you have these really subtle characters in the background, like that boat and that person back there. It's really wonderful details, but that front pile of salt just seems out of place for me personally.
Maybe it would have worked if that was like she got a different photo where that was like more the subject with the rest being like in the background. But I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
At the same location, I think this is just like a wedding that's going on. She's not shooting this wedding, I am assuming, but that's pretty crazy that she got these photos. I'm assuming. I didn't read her post though, so I could be wrong. I think this one, to me, they're a little too far on the edge. I like that you see their reflection, so I don't think she could have like moved to the left to like have a little bit more space, but maybe even just panning a little bit to the left.
I didn't even notice the reflection. Honestly, it's so excuse me, choppy. I would have tilted up and put in more negative space in the sky.
Yeah.
Got rid of the reflection.
Well, she could have kind of done that if she crouched down too. Crouched down, got more negative space in the sky, but got the reflection still.
With water stuff like this, I always suggest, or personally just always like, get on your stomach, put the camera right on, it's nice, calm water, get like right on that water plane. And I feel like that always creates a really nice effect.
Yeah. This one's cool too. I would just crop it in, or I almost wish it was like wider so I could see the edges of this framing, but crop out this bottom line where it goes from like the dirt to like the concrete or whatever. There's also some lines that it feels kind of like not straight or something. I don't know what's going on. If these lines aren't, this line itself isn't horizontal.
A little crooked.
It's a little crooked, yeah.
Looks like there's a drone.
Great frame.
I would take that out in Photoshop.
Take the drone out in Photoshop, maybe crop in just a little bit.
Yeah, straighten it out. But cool framing though, and like the colors are great. Like she's on Fuji. This is like a cropped frame Fuji shot, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Classic little street photography shot. This one's like, I love this like framing and the scene is cool, but I think the cyclist, is a little far away. I wish she could have snapped it a little bit earlier or something where the cyclist was more of a closer and prominent or something.
It's a little, the highlights are blown out just a tad at the top, I think. I don't know. I would actually bring down the exposure in this one just to like help bring out the like contrast and detail, or like the light. I think the light's really cool here. So if she were to like bring down the exposure, we would see how the light kind of shapes everything a little bit better.
Yeah.
That's a personal thing though.
And here, these last two too.
That one's cool. I would center that one a little bit more. These are so good. She's got such a good eye for this stuff in her framing, and she must be using, what lens did she say what lens she's using? She's using like her zoom, right?
I didn't see, but yeah, I think this photo would have been cool if you could see down both these streets a little bit better. I don't know if that was like possible, but like, and these are impossible requests sometimes, but I'm like, same photo with this person walking their dog, but like seeing this street down on the left side and then this tree on the right side. I don't know if that'd be possible, but
the person with the dog just gives the whole thing so much more movement though. So that's her thing. She's got such good timing with that stuff. I mean, look at that. This one feels like the colors are pushed a little bit, or the exposures are pushed a little bit too much. Like we're losing information.
We're losing. I think she brought the highlights down a little bit too much. I don't know if there might be a way to still silhouette this guy. I think that's probably what she was trying to do overall, but maybe.
Yeah, I would isolate him more. I feel like in Lightroom, or just select the subject, which you can do in Lightroom or Photoshop, and then crush him there and leave the background blown out a little bit. Great framing though. Again, her timing is so good.
Yeah. Yeah, some of our Plus members have been getting really, really good, and also just
so fun watching grow,
improving in terms of business and stuff. Here's one last one. Gianluca, I wanted to get to, posted this one. This is Hand in Hand in Venice.
This one's cool. Frame within a frame within a frame.
Yeah, this is one where like I think it's a photo that you kind of just have to look at for a long time. It's part of me is like, well, I wish that couple was like more clear, closer or something where like I could tell have a little bit more details about them. But honestly, it's kind of cool just how it is. They're like in the distance, more abstract. I think it's a cool photo. And I like, I could say, oh, well, you could zoom in but I like seeing these details of these like old door frames on the edges as well. I like
them too, but I would crop or push in just enough to get the left.
This part out.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the only distracting part for me. Like just jump in a little bit.
Yeah.
I like the doors, but honestly, I think the most interesting thing would be I would lose them. I think having the dark part of that corridor and then like in the distance, having that light in the distance of people, I don't know. I would lose the door.
Cool. So we're going to hop to one other JDS Pixel World posted one, but Kathy asked for the link to the Plus community. If you go to photographyandfriends.com/plus, you can find out all the information about our Plus community and sign up. It's $49 a month. If you go for the annual price, you get a hat. We'll send it to you in the mail no matter where you are in the world. You get all of our courses included with the Plus community. So that's like 30 plus photography courses and then like 70 other courses on video, design, marketing, all that stuff. And there's a 30-day money-back guarantee. So you could try it out. And if it's not for you,
get out.
But yeah, we have all these spaces. If you're enjoying this live stream that we do around once a month in the Facebook group, we do this every week
with Photo Plus, yeah.
Plus.
And on Zoom, so you can talk to us.
Yeah, on Zoom. It's way different. And you get access to all of the replays and everything. So it's a really sweet deal if you are interested in taking your photography to the next level and you need a little bit of help. And we have students in there that just want to learn how to take better photos and need help with their gear and stuff. And then we have people who are like starting wedding photography businesses or family portrait businesses and need help that way.
We're doing an interview in the group later this month with one of our students who took our course like 3 or 4 years ago and just went for it and is now a professional wedding photographer in Southern California. And I'm really looking forward to interviewing him because he started out taking our classes on Udemy and has been with us for a long time.
Yeah, that's so awesome.
It's going to be cool. Yeah.
Let's get to this last critique. This is from JDS Pixel World posting some interior photos. He says, horrible interior photo shoots. So on the RP 10 to 18. So I'm going to bring him up. And then we have a couple last questions before we go for the day. So here are the photos. Don't be so hard on yourself. I hate that. So I'm just going to run through them. So this is a case where like maybe you are limited by your equipment, but I don't know. Were you on a tripod and were these, well, let's just.
That one's good. I think the framings are great. I think overall critiques would be exposure could go up like a little bit. You can blow the window out a little bit, but we just want to get a sense of the room. So exposure can go up, bring down the highlights, contrast would be good, and then straightening those lines out.
That's the hardest thing with interior photos. Like I'm thinking, I don't know if these are the same photos but edited.
It looks like it, yeah.
But
it's still a little crooked.
I mean, you're getting a few things. One, you have all this different type of lighting going on. And so you have the outside light, you have this warm light. I would have probably tried to turn off all of these lights and seen if you could have done it with like even if you're on a tripod with a long exposure, just naturally light the whole thing. The other thing is these lines. Yeah, there's like these there's so many lines that it's hard with this to get these like straight up and down. But there is some stuff that's like looks a little bit wonky, and you could try in Lightroom using the straightening tool where it will actually like change the perspective of your photo, but it will try to make these lines perpendicular to the frame or parallel to the frame, and that might look a little bit better.
What I think one of the things that's throwing me off, I personally like the lights being on. I just think you're on a tripod, do like a slightly longer exposure, and then they all have different white balance. But like for this shot specifically, we're kind of looking up, and I understand like to see more of the ceiling and reduce the floor space. But I think if you're on like a ladder or can bring the tripod even higher, you want the like center of the lens in the center of that far wall so that it's like perfectly parallel and perpendicular to it. And that way it'd be, more of a straight on, you're sort of in this rectangular space and it'd be more straight on opposed to sort of looking up at it.
Yeah,
and
that's
I
a good
feel
point.
that would sort of help level those lines out. I mean, right now on your right side, you have, in the top right corner and the bottom right corner, those lines are coming right out of the edges of the frame. Whereas the left side, you can see that line of the wall with the vertical things, they're not hitting as much of the corner. And so you want each of those, like if you're going to do the surface symmetry, you want each corner of the walls to hit perfectly in those, the corners of the frame, or have at least the same amount of space on either side, left or right, to really like, interiors I feel like are a very meticulous thing where you really, have to get everything like really nicely framed. This one feels better to me.
Yeah, I like this one a lot better when you're just not trying for that symmetry. And I think probably for interior shots, going from the corners is generally going to be easier or even better. And this angle compared to this one, I mean, I know you might want to have this shot as well, getting that side of the room, but I like this one a lot better.
More interesting. Yeah, there's a lot more going on. You can tell what the space is. I think that's a great shot. I think it could just be a little bit brighter.
Yep. So, I mean, hopefully that's a little bit of tips that could improve it. Some can be done with editing. But yeah, getting those lines straight is difficult, and that symmetry is also difficult, but paying attention to that. And then, yeah, playing around with like shooting from up high or down lower can also help. But yeah, I think I agree. Like some of these, like that point about like the ceiling, you don't need to see as much ceiling. So yeah, getting up a little bit higher. Yeah. All right. Cool.
We have a couple of like questions though.
Yeah, let's get to the last questions because I know it's top of the hour. So
the really cool one. Where was it? David asked it
tips.
About street photography. Yeah. Oh, here it is. What's your best tip for street photography making photos of people in public places? Sam?
Take it away, Sam.
I mean, I think your camera system makes it a huge part of this. And so if you are shooting film on a Yashica, the nice thing of that is that opposed to having a camera up in your face, what you're doing is you're looking down. So it's less of a, I'm looking at you with the camera. It's more of like, oh, that guy's looking down at something. And then that's sort of how you shoot. And I think a lot of great street photographers shot with those medium formats for that reason. Getting the manual focus is the hardest part of all that if you are shooting film, because that takes some time. And I think if you're doing that approach, I've been trying to shoot a lot more street photography with a rangefinder camera, so no autofocus. And I take less shots and I take a lot more time to really be in a location when the lighting is great and I'm like find the framing I like, and then I just wait for people to populate that frame basically. That being said, if you're trying to do those candids, I think, like finding the location that you want to take those photos in and just being patient with it and waiting for characters to sort of go by. And if anything, sometimes I'll be like, oh, I'm taking a photo of this building. And so like people just start moving. I just keep holding it there. And then someone finally enters the frame and I click the shot. And it's not that I'm like following a person because they look interesting to me, but I'm rather letting them come into the frame. So it's not as like aggressive of I'm taking a photo of you. But yeah, that or being being a bit bolder and actually going up to people and saying, hey, like, I love your look, I love your style, whatever it is, could I take your photo? And getting them to actually, pose for you or do something like that. But it depends if you're going for that candid or more pose shot.
I mean, I think the general tip for kind of like maybe to David's point is that for a lot of street photography, having people in the photos makes it just a more interesting photo. Even if it's, you're taking a photo, you're walking around, there's like a cool building or whatever, just having someone doing some sort of action is going to make that photo more interesting. A lot of times, unless you just want like a nice, pretty building. So being patient and waiting for a person to do something or enter the frame or whatever, I think can actually just be a good thing to do. You just gotta kind of wait around though.
A lot of the cameras that he said he was using are film. So in that regard, I mean, my street photography, I'm on the Leica Q now, and I think the autofocus is just phenomenal. So I don't even have to be looking through the eyepiece or the screen to get some really cool street photography shots. But with film, the tip that I would say is like, just practice, like take the shot. Don't be afraid to like not get the shot. Like just practice, start to like understand what 5 feet, what 8 feet, what 3 feet is in front of you. And don't be afraid. You're going to burn through a lot of non good shots, but the more you practice it, like everything else, eventually you're going to nail it. And all you need is like a couple good ones. So practicing, especially with film.
Yeah. And to that point, I mean, most the street photographers I'm most excited by or from back in the day, like they're constantly out walking the street. Yeah. At least, I mean, they're always out there. They're purposely going at, sunrise hours or sunset hours. They're out there, and you just have to constantly be out there taking the photos, even if it's the same location over and over again. It's just sort of what it takes. Yeah.
Also, take your camera. Get used to it. If you're not willing to take your camera with you everywhere you go, you might not be into street photography. Because sometimes I'll take my camera out and I won't shoot anything. But you get used to having it with you, and people get used to you having it with you. So even your friends will start to be disarmed by it. But take it with you, even if you're not going to like get a shot.
Yeah, and if you are shooting film, I'd highly recommend finding some at least 400, if not 800 speed film you like. I really like the Portra 800, but whatever you like, and shooting at higher f-stops. One thing for me with the rangefinder that I've been doing a lot with practicing zone focusing is like I never used to shoot f8, but I'm constantly shooting f8 now. And I really love the look. I've been surprised by, I don't need it to be that like micro thin, point of focus, and everything else is out of focus. Like I purposely am letting things be, composition focused and more in focus.
You guys are inspiring me. I need to take my camera out more. I was in the Plus community. I was messaging, I think it was with Rachel as well, about just not feeling inspired, and it literally just feeling like too hot outside and being like, I don't want to be outside, so I'm not putting myself out in those places to practice my photography. But that's why I come to these live sessions, guys, just to get inspired.
You just got to take it, even if you're not going to take any photos, because you get one shot.
Yep. There was one last question, unless you guys saw others, and you might have answered this, but Nancy asked about batch editing in Photoshop. She shot a wedding. Is there another application or editing service to use? 100% you should be using Lightroom to be batch editing your photos. If you already have Adobe Photoshop, you should be using Lightroom. Photoshop is for those highly like precise, detailed edits, retouching and stuff, but a lot of that you could probably even do in Lightroom.
It's really great too. I use Lightroom for all my events, all my weddings, even like I just did an album cover shoot last night and I use Lightroom. And then within Lightroom, if there's something you need to do specifically in Photoshop, you can actually edit it. You can send it to Photoshop, edit it, and then it will save it automatically in Lightroom. So the two will work tandemly. And if you need Photoshop specifically, which I do for like removal of things or touching up, you can do that. But Lightroom for batch editing copy paste, copy paste, copy paste.
Yeah, and David, this is a great point. Best camera ever is the one that you have with you.
Yeah.
So just really quickly, let me see if I could bring up. We're gonna wrap up, but just a reminder for everyone: leave a comment if you haven't done so. Hit the like button. That helps us out. That's not what I wanted to do. But if you're interested in taking more courses, the best place to go is head over to videoschool.com, and you can find links to all of our photography courses. We have so many over there. A lot of you are in our photography masterclass, but we have courses on Lightroom, starting a photography business, mobile photography, buying a camera, Sony cameras, Canon cameras, Nikon cameras, travel photography, landscape, night, food, long exposure, so many. And so jump around, take a course. It helps support us. It helps us do more of these things. And so videoschool.com is the best place to find links to all of those. The other place too is photographyandfriends.com. A lot of people don't know that we have this whole resource with blog articles and guides and podcast and links to the Plus community if you're interested. Also, yeah, what else?
If y'all are here, we're always looking for feedback. I mean, whether it's in our courses, whether it's these live streams, whether you're looking at the Photo and Friends Plus.
1,000%.
We're always looking for inspiration or different things on how, we're just hanging out here because we like each other, but also because, we want to help our students. And so whatever it is, whether it's, different course ideas, whether it's changes to the courses, whether it's topics for these chats, we're always looking for feedback. So.
Yep. 100%.
I'm going to go buy a Sheikah now. Thanks a lot, David.
All right, so we will be back probably, I don't know if we'll try to do, we might announce the winners of the night photography contest later in the month, or we're kind of a little busy. I'm a little busy at the end of the month, so we might announce those winners at the beginning of September. We'll see, but we'll be back for another live stream probably in September. Make sure you post your night photo contest submissions in the next week or two. Keep posting in the Facebook group, and if you haven't done so, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel, because this is the Photography and Friends channel. We'll be putting out more content. So Luciana, thank you so much for being here. Alyssa, thank you. David, thank you all for the questions. Greg, 100%. All right, see y'all. Have a great week. Go shoot some photos. Bye.
Bye.